Hey, it's been a while since I've done a video log, since the convention actually, I feel. I've just been focusing so much on podcasts and new programming and other stuff that, forgot every once in a while I should do a vlog review probably or something. So here we are, here to talk about Yoga Hosers, the Smodcast Kevin Smith film that is part 2 of his True North trilogy, in which he spends quite a bit of focus and time in Canada. We'll get to that. For starters, there was no theater nearby me that was playing this movie. I believe it had a limited run a week or so ago in Ashbury Park, which is about 50 to 60 miles away from where I live. And the only showing they had was like 10 o'clock at night on a Friday night. So there's no way I was driving 60 miles on my Friday night just to go watch a 10 o'clock showing and then driving 60 miles back that late at night. Fortunately though, Kevin Smith was forward-thinking enough to kind of say, like, maybe even though I'm getting kind of a limited release across the board, let's find another way to bring this movie to people. So this is actually available on the website FlixFling. If you get a subscription, it's free to sign up, and you can subscribe to various channels or genres and rent movies. And that's what I ended up doing, was I ended up renting this on FlixFling. Now, I love me a good Kevin Smith movie. I've been a fan of Kevin Smith's since Clerks. I've enjoyed a majority of his original material, very much so. Even when he started this True North trilogy with Tusk a couple of years ago, even then I was still with him on this idea, because I'm like, you know what? You're coming back to your indie roots somewhat, financing your own stuff as it were, and telling stories you want to tell. Granted, those are probably very THC-induced stories. I'll admit there was stuff in Tusk that really didn't work for me with regards to, not necessarily the plot itself, but with regards to what they kind of filled in the gaps with in the plot. When it came to kind of jokes that, okay, I get the joke, okay, let's move on to something else, or something that I feel is working against him in this movie in particular, which is the constant kind of Canadian stereotypes that, you know, on the onset in the initial joke are funny, but then when you just hear them over and over can get very repetitive in a sense and kind of not funny. Going into this film, based off of the trailers, based off of the way he was describing it in his podcasts and the way he would kind of tell the process he was going through in creating this film in and of itself, I knew going into this movie that this wasn't going to be particularly aimed at me. He was saying, it's like, yeah, this is more like for teenagers, for teenage girls, as it were. Like, its protagonists are teenage girls, and it's supposed to kind of speak to that demographic, I guess, with hints of horror and comedy infused throughout it. And I totally get that, yeah, a lot of these Smodcast pictures are playing for the Smodcast fans, are meant to kind of be enjoyed mainly for people who have committed to following his storytelling in Smodcast or in Hollywood Babylon. He's got a lot of his Smodcast and Hollywood Babylon alumni in here. Yeah, I get that initially this isn't going to appeal to everybody, but I'm sad to say that it couldn't appeal to me on any real level. Not even so much with the plot. I was behind this weird-ass plot of 2 teenage girls join up with this Canadian detective and fight what turns out to be demonic bratwurst soldiers. Hey, if you're all for weird and stupid concepts like that, cool. If you can make it entertaining, if you can sell me on this premise, I'm with you. And that premise in and of itself isn't what really dragged this movie for me. It was kind of a combination of things, but mainly it is the over stereotypical Canadian jokes that get kind of run into the ground. It is where his focus wants to lie with regards to this is how Kevin Smith perceives the world of a teenage girl, apparently. I'm gonna get to some kudos here. It stars his daughter, Harley Quinn Smith, and it stars Johnny Depp's daughter, along with Johnny Depp himself showing up in the movie as these two girls. They were in Tusk originally, and kind of just a brief cameo as these two clerks working at a convenience store, or their version of 7-Eleven called A to Z. Ha! Canadian humor. Not gonna get tired of that. These girls, it didn't put me off of seeing them in other things. I feel they have good chemistry together. You can tell that they are childhood friends outside of the movie itself, and they seem to really work well off of each other. If you gave them a better script or a better story, they would probably do very well. So I have nothing really against I really have nothing against any of the actors in this movie, so much so. Because I've seen a lot of these actors tackle better stuff. I have a sense that I haven't really seen anything Harley Quinn or what's her name, Lily Rose, have done outside of here. They probably haven't done much. They're just getting started with their careers, and honestly, I wish them all the best with that. You can tell that there is promise for some good performances. It's unfortunate that this is kind of where they what's the expression, where they wet their teeth or whatever, where they get their start, earn your bones, as it were. Okay, I'm gonna stop using terms about coming into your own, essentially. There's promise in their future. I don't think this is gonna set them back too bad, given their parentage, but there's promise there. It's just a shame that this is the movie they have to kind of start off on. And everyone else in the film is doing fine with what they're given. Everyone is played pretty broad in this film, but that's the way the film is designed. You're not looking for really compelling character performances in here. Everyone is very cartoony. It doesn't... the Canadian stereotypes and caricatures of what Kevin Smith perceives as Canadian caricatures and stereotypes aren't helping things, because they're played to 11 with regards to the whole, sorry about that, A to Z, oh dear, well that sure is gonna be unfortunate now. And even when someone's trying to be intimidating, he's like, this guy that one of the girls has a crush on turns out to be this Satan lover who wants to sacrifice them, and his buddy's like, oh, I don't really know if we should be doing this, eh? And so he throws him up against the wall. He's like, we're going to kill those girls. Sorry. Like, playing into the laziest and easiest kind of Canadian jokes, or what we perceive Canadians are, it really is limp with regards to that. And because of that, like I said, I've seen everyone else in the cast, aside from the younger actors, do better work. I can't really fault them for, I'm sure that's the way it was written in the script, and I'm just like, oh, okay, I'll play it like this way out of date stereotype of Canada. Sure, whatever makes you laugh, Mr. Smith. The other thing that I mentioned that didn't really work for me in this film at all was, you could tell this was written by someone who thinks he's in touch with this current generation of teenagers. Now, I know this from what he mentions in stuff like Smodcast and Hollywood Babylon, is that he is tight with his daughter. Like, his daughter kind of keeps him in the loop, I guess, of what's popular or what's going on in her life. She's his best text buddy, and they text each other back and forth and so forth. And they seem to have a really good father-daughter relationship. I don't know how much she did in terms of consulting him in the movie with regards to, this is totally what all the kids these days are focused on, or the way they act. I don't know if she did tell him, give him suggestions, and he just kind of took it in his own direction, but it is very much, it feels so put upon, the teenage mentality throughout this movie. Really cliche but at the same time, only like half-hearted and half invested. If these girls say basic once, and they say it a goddamn million times in this movie, but every time they say that is so basic, I don't buy that that's really what someone would say. I don't buy that that's something they invest in, as actors trying to get into their characters. It totally just feels like cliche dialogue. It feels like they took the Valley Girl cliche and just put it into the northern mindset of Canada, apparently. Because here's the thing. I've seen movies starring Canadian people. I've seen Canadian-based productions. I understand you're going for a broader sense of humor here, but even in Canadian-based productions, there's nothing so outwardly simple and cartoonish in their caricatures even of themselves, the way that this movie represents it. And you combine that with the most stereotypical Valley Girl speak and most stereotypical teen heartthrob comedy tropes. I was already kind of checking out on aspects of this film. Honestly, when the Bratzies show up and the bad CGI and the giant golem made out of meat and Ralph Garman, like, thank God those aspects showed up when they did, because I was half paying attention to what was going on here until the actual outlandish bullshit started. I don't want to harp so much on Kevin Smith, because I do admire the guy. I do admire what he's done for independent film, what he's done with regards to, outside of that, what he's done with regards to storytelling and with regards to just trying to find your own identity and voice in a very homogenized type of medium, what can threaten to be very homogenized, trying to really strive for just doing whatever the fuck you want and being proud of it. And I'm sure he's proud as hell of this movie, and he has many times acknowledged, like, yeah, I know this is stupid, but I'm still proud of it. So I'm glad he's getting something out of it a little bit, but just as the viewer outside of it, there was nothing really I could vibe to about this aside from the last 15 minutes or 20 minutes or so when Ralph Garman shows up. Now, yeah, unabashedly, I enjoy Ralph Garman whenever he does show up in a movie. I've enjoyed his impressions quite a bit. He's pretty spot on with a lot of impressions, and he gets to do them here, and I feel like, yeah, for the sake of just like appealing more to the Smodcast family, that's why he's cast in this role. I believe Michael Parks was originally supposed to play this role, but he had to back out at the last minute, so they got Ralph to fill in. It's not enough, I feel. It's a little too late. The weird shit and the just bizarro plot that is centered in this film reveals itself a little too late in the proceedings for me to care so much. In Tusk, at least, there was some kind of suspenseful buildup into that very unusual premise that they were getting into, and the payoff was okay for the most part. Here, the movie seems more focused on trying to capture the essence of what Kevin Smith believes teenagers sound like and act like. Listening to some of the dialogue whenever these kids are talking to each other in this movie, like I said, it is the most cliched type of like, well, this phrase is really popular right now, I'm going to incorporate it into every sentence I say. Like, I said, the word basic. Like, yeah, I know basic's kind of a big term. Like, I'm surprised lit didn't show up more in this script. I know at the moment, probably when he was, indulging in a little, it probably seemed like the most brilliant writing possible, but it really doesn't come off like that when it is executed in the film. Another thing that kind of got really annoying was this whole, every time a new character would pop up on the screen, they'd have a quick intro, like a 8-bit, it's like a Scott Pilgrim versus the World type of animation with 8-bit characters and 8-bit music, MIDI music showing up, and then you'd see like stats on the side of the picture. First of all, those stats go by way too fast for me to actually get what the jokes are in the stats. Second of all, the fact that they did this for every single character, from one of the Colleen's dads to one of the boys that are interested to the teacher that tells them a story. Every single character that has more than 2 lines of dialogue in this movie gets one of those screens, and it gets annoying because it's just like, why? What's the point of that? We're only going to see these characters for one scene and then we're done. What is the point? Just let the scene play as it would. Again, there's stuff that did kind of work. When they, in the very beginning, when they're working at the A to Z, when they're just being clerks, I was getting a clerkish vibe off of it. Like the way they interacted with some of the customers. Kevin Conroy, the saving grace of kind of this movie, shows up and does his Batman voice. And that's fine and all. But their responses to that, their responses to some of the customers, to Harley Morstein coming in and wanting toilet paper and so forth, when they're just kind of hanging around the shop on their own and actually acting like people, that's fine. It's not enough. It's like only about 5 minutes worth of material. And then immediately it gets back to, oh my god, OMG, can't live without my phone, and just constantly texting. Like, I know that's the way kids probably are, but it's so just weak as a caricature at this point. And again, the overuse of Canadian humor and stereotypes was really kind of grating. The fact that everyone says at the end of everything, the sorry about that. Oh, well, if it isn't the two Colleens in this Saskatchewan celebration. Like, I'm just improvising lines off the top of my head, but this movie crams every, like, little Canadian joke or jab or inside joke about Canada that it can, and, you know, treats it like the most funny, clever dialogue ever. And it really isn't. I was sitting here watching it on my laptop, kind of like, can we please get to the killer sausages at least? That'll be something different, and it'll be something just so batshit that I'll be like, this is interesting. And when it does get there, it kind of does that for a little bit, but it's like I said, with the Clerks kind of callbacks, it's not enough for me to sustain investment. Unfortunately, Ralph Garman's impressions can't save it either. There is one scene that comes to mind, though, that every time I think of it, I do crack up. I haven't, like, every time the image comes to my head, I can't help but crack up. And it's when their history teacher in high school is regaling them with a story about how there used to be Nazis in Canada and who kind of started it. And it flashes back to Haley Joel Osment as Adrian Arcand, who's doing his whole, he's on a soapbox in the streets in the 30s, you know, and no one's listening to his anti-Semitism. But then off in the corner, they smash cut to Ralph Garman as this mad scientist with a schnauzer or a dachshund or some dog just frumped down in his, like a cat for a Bond villain, in his grasp, and he's just there, hat, jacket draped over his shoulders, just laughing maniacally, like I don't know why that image just cracks me the fuck up every time I remember it. And so at least, okay, you got me once, movie, with just that completely absurd visual. Again, that's not enough. I know everyone's trying here. Everyone is probably just working with the script they got and is just like, no, just play it cartoony, play it funny, play it over the top Canadian. That outdated Canadian stereotype we all grew up with. I'm sorry, Kevin Smith. I am still a fan. I look forward to some of the projects you've mentioned that you're in developing stages for. I'm looking forward to the Mallrats series. I'm looking forward to, if you come through with Buckaroo Banzai, that could be something really special. I'm looking forward to that. I might even be still looking forward to Moose Jaws a little bit, just because if you're able to capture some kind of creepiness with that, if it's a little bit more focused on the actual absurd plot, I'll probably be invested in it. This movie has its focus in completely the wrong area, where it is more so just about these two girls, but not necessarily about anything deep with these two girls. It's just about these two teenage girls acting like teenage girls. And then there's kind of a horror movie going on here. That is completely the wrong kind of focus. You either go all the way with your absurd, weird horror film, or don't do it at all. At least with Tusk, you committed to that just out of nowhere type of idea. At least that was the through line through and throughout the film. It wasn't distracted so much by anything else. And I hope Moose Jaws is a little bit more like that, where it keeps the focus where it should with the actual suspense of a killer moose. I can't say Yoga Hosers was an enjoyable viewing experience. It currently, right now, on my list, currently it's sitting in the middle of my worst of 2016. I'm sorry. I feel kind of like a Benedict Arnold a little bit with regards to this, because I do love what he's done, and I do love the Smodcast programming very much so. It's fun stuff to listen to when you have some time to kill, or when you've had a long day at work and are stressed out. It is the perfect stuff to just sit down and listen to him and Scott Mosier just giggle about the stupidest stuff. It makes me laugh and giggle with them. So as much as I hate to kind of say boo to this, I have to say boo to this. Yoga Hosers is kind of a big misfire, but from the way he's kind of been talking about it, he anticipated that people wouldn't be really behind this movie as much as probably something like Tusk. Like I said, I'm still a fan. I'm still looking forward to some of the other projects he's got in the works. I don't know if I could really recommend Yoga Hosers. Yeah, half the time I was kind of checked out of it. And it might just be for the fact that, like what he mentioned earlier, is that this is not speaking to me in any way. There's nothing I really relate to in this film. If you are curious, it's probably still up on FlixFling, and you can probably check it out for yourself. But I'm just telling you right now, it's kind of a mess, I feel, and it kind of comes back to the state where I'm kind of saying, okay, Kev, I can't wait for you to get out of this Canadian phase of movie making. I'm glad Moose Jaws is kind of the end. I hope Moose Jaws is still good, but I'm glad it's the end of your trilogy. Let's get back to some other storytelling. Maybe when you write stuff, maybe take a little bit of a break from smoking too much. I understand it kind of helps you focus a little bit more, as you mentioned in other podcasts, that it is a tool that you kind of utilize to help focus on writing, but you can't overdo it, perhaps. I don't know. I love some of the concepts, but, commit to those concepts at least.